My name is Juan Flores. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. Served in Iraq twice, Haiti once, and I work for Operation Sacred Trust.
What led you to the Marine Corps?
I've always wanted to join the military, but after 9/11, that definitely cemented that decision.
Tell me about that.
About 9/11?
About how that impacted you.
Just watching the airplane, that second airplane hit the tower. I wanted to go defend my country.
Where were you then?
I was on my way to French class in high school.
You're at South Broward.
I was at South Broward.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that day. I think everyone does.
Tell me more about it.
We were in between classes. The bell rang. I was walking to French class, and then when we sat down, the phone rang. Teacher picked up the phone. She rolled out the TV because that's how it was back then. She plugged it in and turned on the news, and as soon as it turned on, maybe 5 seconds afterwards, we watched the second plane hit.
Did you grow up as a patriotic person?
No, because I wasn't even a citizen when I joined. I grew up watching like Rambo movies and things like that, so I always wanted to be Rambo. But as I got older and I learned more, then I think at that time is when I became more patriotic.
It sounds like that moment in French class you saw who the enemy was.
Right.
So you were a warrior waiting to know.
Right. Well, I was also thankful for everything that this country provided for me. Seeing what my cousins didn't have in Peru and seeing what I had here, I was grateful to be in this country.
When did you come here?
In 88 or 89.
With your mom and dad?
With my mom. My dad was already here.
And were you all together then?
My dad wasn't there. My dad was there for a little bit, but then he was a jockey, so he traveled all over the U.S.
So you never got to?
No, it was just mostly me and my mom. Yeah.
Me too. And we find our way.
Absolutely.
Sounds like you got to know your dad more at the end of his life than at the beginning.
I did get to know my dad more at the end of his life.
Were you in touch with him when you joined, when you decided to enlist?
Yeah, I was. He tried to get me not to join, and so did my mom.
It's a big difference to be a warrior and a horse jockey.
Yeah.
You couldn't be more opposite. I don't know if you had to have opposites.
Yeah.
Those might be two opposites.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Was that part of it?
No, I think it was just always in me. I think when you know, you know. It's like you're born with it. I think there's a calling to it.
The to protect.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it was you and your mom for a while.
Correct.
And you had to protect.
Yeah.
I bet you're really good at that.
I try to do my best.
You're awesome. You're awesome. So 9/11 was a chance to see that you were needed.
Correct.
And that you could make a difference for this country.
Absolutely.
So that became what?
I became the Marine Corps.
So how long did it take from that morning in French class until you actually were in boot camp?
That happened in 2001. I didn't graduate 2003, so I had to wait.
But you knew.
But I knew. Yeah.
Were there other students at South Broward that you think that knew too?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a big deal to come and fight for a new country. I mean, to accept and embrace this country and to want to be a warrior for this country it's a really big deal.
Absolutely.
It changes things for generations. So, and the idea that you had such amazing clarity about that morning, unique to you. I don't think 1,000 people. You're extraordinary. So it took 2 years till you graduated, and then what happened?
And then I wanted to enlist. I didn't know if it was the Army or the Marines, and then the recruiter for the Army showed up 15 minutes late,
Yeah.
and so I just went to the Marine Corps.
Isn't it amazing how life is that way?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was easy. The recruiter said I was the easiest pulley he ever had, because I signed up. I said I don't want to do anything else. Just wanted infantry, and send me out as soon as possible.
Did you plan to come back?
What do you mean?
That? Were you planning?
Come back from?
Were you planning to come back to civilian life one day?
I don't know. I kept my options open. I wasn't sure if this is my career move, but I know it's what I wanted to do.
So you went?
Right, so I signed up. I shipped out October 7th, and that was it. I mean, you do training for 3 months. I graduated at the end of December. Because I was infantry guys weren't allowed to, because the war had just kicked off, or the takedown of Baghdad has just kicked off. They didn't allow infantry Marines to go home for recruiter assistance, so you got 10 days, and then you're turning around and going back into training. And then we were slated to go into Iraq of September of that year, which was in 2004 at that time.
That was going to be your first time to Iraq. That
was going to be my first time to Iraq. I had just completed boot camp. I was just finishing up infantry school. And the day we graduated infantry school, they were like, hey, guess what? The President of the United States wants us in Haiti. So we had to be in Haiti in 24 hours. So that bumped our date back to the following year.
Haiti's got to be a tough assignment.
That's
not where the bad guys are.
No, but it was meant to be that way, I think. And looking back at it now, but it was more confusing than anything. Like, why are we going to Haiti? Especially after you're doing training, you're not really. Yeah,
we're a killing machine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
Yeah, but that's where the president needed us, and that's where we were.
What'd you do in Haiti?
We went to take Aristide, the prime minister, the president of Haiti, out of power. But he was long gone before we got there. Yeah. It's kind of like he knew. Somebody gave him a heads up. Yeah.
But maybe there was a reason for it. Actually, I'm sure there was.
I think so. I mean, I feel like every deployment since then was a build-up from the next, because it only got worse. Haiti was, hey, look, this is how you shoot guns. And then, Fallujah was like, hey, this is how you more tactically engage the enemy. And, call for medevacs because your buddies are getting hurt. And then it was Ramadi, where it was like, hey, maybe this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life, because no matter how good you are at your job, if it's your time to go, you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. And there's no set of skills that can protect you from what's going to happen.
It's amazing to think of a generation for whom, if there's any way to define sort of different generation or a different segment of the generation, it's those two words, Fallujah and Ramadi.
Right.
When you talk to a post 9/11 veteran, certainly a combat veteran.
Yeah. Fallujah and Ramadi were the bloodiest cities.
That was, those were the, I don't know what the word is, but those were the stakes in the ground in their life.
Right. Because the insurgency had a lot of influence over those cities. And those cities were also taken back by the insurgency when we pulled out. So, they were big cities. It's like you just have to understand, like, the terrain. I mean, Baghdad is a big city, but Fallujah and Ramadi were like the big cities where the insurgency was heavy, that had a heavy presence.
So that meant you were face to face with people who wanted you to die.
Right. Yeah.
That's not the way it was in Haiti.
No, in Haiti was more of like they showed resistance like the first week, and the second we opened up with the big guns, they didn't want any part of it.
So what's it like seeing people that hate you?
At the time, it's it's what you train for. I mean, this is what you chose to do. This is the job that you chose to do. It's not like I was drafted into it. It's not like I didn't have a choice as to whether I was gonna go be a cook or a mechanic or something. This is what I chose to do. So this is what I was looking forward to. As when you see your buddies go down, that's the part that gets you. So, yeah, it was bittersweet.
Is there any way to prepare for that?
I don't think so. I mean, if there is, I'd like to see it, but I don't think so.
We lost a lot of people in Fallujah and Ramadi.
We did.
They lost a lot more, but we count every one of ours. They all have a name, mom and dad.
Absolutely.
Boots, dog tag. So how did you deal with losing people you cared about?
Yeah, different ways. I mean, drinking, hanging out with your buddies. Luckily for us, I don't know if it was because of everything that we went through. I mean, we stayed pretty close. I mean, we have a Facebook page that we communicate frequently on. We have chat groups on our cell phones that every day we're talking to one another. I was fortunate enough to live in South Florida, where a lot of my buddies that lived in like middle of nowhere in Ohio or North Jersey, someplace that they didn't want to live in, they're like, hey man, can I come live with you for a little bit until I get on my feet? And I was like, sure. So I constantly had my Marines with me. So, and we'd cry it out, hug it out, drink it out.
Do you remember when you realized they were my Marines?
What do you mean? When
and
they
at
were
the point in your life where you realized that the Marines are your Marines, that these are my Marines, mine, one for us.
Yeah.
These are my Marines.
Yeah, after deployments. I mean, deployments just brings the units closer. Haiti brought the senior guys. We were the junior guys. It brought us closer, and then as we go into Iraq and our senior guys that we were there phase out, we get a group of new guys, and then we go to that deployment together. Then we all become closer, and then as we're getting ready for Ramadi, some senior guys leave, and then we get another group of guys, and we become closer. So
if you were giving yourself advice before you were heading for your first deployment in Iraq, how to give yourself the best chance to come back,
yeah,
what advice? I know that you said earlier, if it's your time, it's your time, and there's nothing you can do. But is there anything you can do to help yourself have the best chance of coming home?
I don't think so. I mean, war is war. There's certain things that you can do to prevent it when you look back, but I guess just try not to be a hero. Heroes come back in coffins. I don't know. Don't go. You do what you can for your Marines. You make the decision that you can make, the best decision you can make at that time, but you can't always foresee the outcome and what's going to happen if you say, hey, make that left, instead of saying, hey, make that right.
And life comes down to left or right.
Yeah.
And you saw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know people who didn't want to come home?
No, I didn't know anybody that didn't want to come home.
When I was growing up, my mom's boyfriend was a Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Griffiths, Marine Corps. It was during Vietnam, but they weren't dating at the time. But he was going on his last tour to Vietnam, and he didn't want to come back. But I think she made some kind of secret pledge to him that if he came back, they'd be together. Now maybe that was just what he said to women. I don't know.
Right.
But it became the truth in my world that there was a Marine that was going to Vietnam and he wasn't coming back. So you didn't see that?
No, I didn't see that. Everybody I knew wanted to come back.
So what does it take, when you think about how you survived, I'm assuming you had to be incredibly vigilant.
Yeah, and luck. Luck plays a big role.
So luck?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, no, I mean, we had a saying where every day is day one, so we don't become complacent. Because, I mean, some of these patrols were 17-hour patrols, some of these patrols were 2-hour patrols. So as long as you know.
Patrol meant you were exposed.
Yeah, it meant you left the fob. So you
were
left
out there.
the base, the forward operating base. So that's what a patrol meant. So that means you were leaving your safe zone to go out into the streets to accomplish whatever mission you were set out to do that day.
People die during patrol sometimes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you go on your patrol, it's luck.
Right. I mean,
Don't be a hero. What else keeps you alive?
I don't know if there's much else. I mean, again, like, how do you prepare for sniper fire if you don't know the sniper's there? You know, you think it's just another day. You're doing all your checks. You got all your gear on, and you just hear that pop, and then you're just looking to see and make sure your guys aren't down, because obviously you're not down. And you know, you just pray the next time you hear one of those, it's not you.
Are words an important part of survival?
Words?
Like down is a lot easier to say than dead.
Right. Yeah.
Down sounds like someone can get up.
Right. Because there is that chance, and you hope for that. You hope, you just got hit in the shoulder or something. Or a hit off his vest. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you engaged sniper, you experienced sniper fire?
Yeah.
I would think you're different every time you go out after that. Aren't you always expecting it after that?
Yes. I mean, obviously, like, as time goes on and you start losing more and more guys, you tend to believe in higher power. And just, we went from just like listening to music was our ritual before we left in our truck to like, hey man, let's all say a prayer, we're all going to come back.
Do you remember that shift? From music to prayer?
Yeah.
Tell me.
And when one of my buddies went down, he got sniper fire. And his last words were, I'm going to kill that motherfucker. And that was the last time I saw him. Because we medevaced him, and then after that, he didn't make it after that.
So after that, instead of music, you started praying as a group.
Right, because he was the first loss that we took that was somebody that me and the guys went through training and everything with. So the guys that we had lost before were either senior to us or they were junior to us, so we hadn't gone through boot camp or anything like that together. But this was the first one where I was like, all right, it's hitting closer to home now. Like, there's no, they have no mercy. There's just, it just becomes more real when it's somebody that you've known now for over a year versus somebody that you just met 6 months ago. You've met their parents, that kind of thing.
You knew his parents?
Yeah.
Where was he from?
He was from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Just go to camp there.
Yeah. I remember when we were in Haiti, he used to have to give...
Raised near Erie.
Yeah. And he
was in Haiti.
Like, he lived in the sticks, so deep in the sticks that he would have to write on his address that, hey, like, when you see the yellow mailbox, you got to make a right and then go down 500 yards, and my house is the first house on the left. Like, that's how deep in the woods this guy was.
And you did that?
Yeah.
Did you go there?
No, I haven't been there. I haven't.
But that's the kind of place it was.
Right, but I remember him writing that when he would send packages home.
That's so funny.
Yeah, like he would have to fill out
But
that. Because I used to always see, what is special instructions for? But his was different. Yeah. But yeah, after that one, is that was a tough loss.
So I haven't been through that, and I don't know how I would ever have your strength and courage. But I wonder if that makes you want to be closer to people or less close to people. Does it make you care more about people, or does it make you feel like anybody can go at any time, I better not care too much about people? Or something very different?
I think at the time it was, I don't want to be close to people. Like, you kind of separate yourself from people because that's what you're expecting, is to lose an ex-friend or buddy or Marine or but then as you get older you realize that you want those people closer to you. You know, like you want to.
While you were serving, did you feel like you better not get too close to anyone?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though you would give your life for them or do anything you could to protect them,
Yeah.
you didn't want to you definitely didn't want to give your heart.
Yeah. I definitely, right. I was definitely a little colder with everyone during, and then after, you know, I watched Camp Lejeune get smaller and smaller in my rearview mirror. That's when I was like, oh no, I need these guys close. So I kept in contact with them. I would call them, talk to each other online.
So how do you go from that to not that? From Ramadi and Fallujah to nurturing a kid or loving a wife or a girlfriend, or
Right.
how do you do that?
You definitely have to look deep within yourself, and one thing that helped me was to always think of the brain as a muscle, because that's what I was told in high school. Your brain's a muscle. Exercise it. Go read a book. You know. So one of the things that I got into was jiu-jitsu, and it's a small community, and they're also a close-knit community. Like, everyone knows everyone in the jiu-jitsu community, and to be able to go on the mats with somebody that you outweigh by 80 pounds and have them throw you around like a little kid and make you feel vulnerable again, you know, to the point where you're like, I'm not going to let him choke me out, but then you see everything closing in on you before you tap. Putting your brain in that situation where you have to think things through kind of opens your mind to like when you're at home, you're just by yourself in the room and the walls start to close in on you.
Did you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Were you around your mom?
No, I moved out when I got back. I mean, I lived with my mom for a short period of time.
When did you become a dad?
In 2007.
After you served?
Right after my last deployment. I got out in 2008.
Okay, so the pregnancy was while you were...
While I was in the Marine Corps, correct.
Were you ready to be a dad?
I don't think you're ever ready to be a dad, but, you know, you give it your best shot. That's what I did. That was Lily.
How lucky are we?
Yeah.
I mean, we as a planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so great. So you were over in Iraq getting reports of how Lily was growing.
No, well, that's my last deployment was in 2006. So
okay.
At that point, when you have a certain amount of time, the Marine Corps likes to get every juice out of that. Yeah. So they tried to send me to a unit that was deploying right away, because they gave me two options. They said, hey, you can either stay with your unit and get ready to go on this MEU, or you can go, or you can not choose to extend, and we're going to send you to a unit that needs bodies to go back to Iraq. I was fortunate enough to go to a unit.
They wanted you to extend?
Yeah, they wanted me to
just stay for another 2 years?
No, I think I would have had to extend for another year. I can't remember how long, but I wasn't entertaining that. I was like, I'll take my chances going to another unit, going back to Iraq.
You were done?
Yeah, I was done going back as an infantry. person over there, and they sent me to a unit where it's more logistics to go back overseas. But lucky for me, the first sergeant that just took over that unit saw what I just went through and was like, "Hey man, if you want to go, I'll send you. If you don't want to go, you can come here and do Excel spreadsheets for me." So I was like, "Yeah man, I'm done."
And the spreadsheets never look so good.
Yeah, I didn't even know what those things were.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't know anything about that. I was right out of high school. I didn't do any of that stuff. So I was like, "Sure, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I just don't want to go back over, man." He was like, "All right, just have a seat in that chair right there. We'll find work for you."
So, and then before you know it, you got a little girl in your hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and then at that point, that's when we found out we were having Lily. And they tried to get me to stay to do, be like a recruiter for the Marine Corps or go work at Quantico to train officers. And
the Marine I talked about was at Quantico.
Yeah.
Grew up near Quantico.
So I entertained that for a little bit because, they had, at that point, if you were an infantry guy, they offered a lot of money for you to stay in. So I thought about it. I took my time with it, though, and I made the decision not to.
So what was it like suddenly holding a little baby?
It was surreal. Like, I didn't believe it. I mean, even through the birthing process, I didn't believe it. Like, I couldn't believe a human was made inside of another human.
Yeah. Did you come to believe it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of hard not to when they call you dad. Yeah.
Were you ready for that? I mean, I know you said you're never ready, but I mean, how do you wash off Ramadi and Fallujah? I can't imagine what shower or bath or psychic spring. I mean, I guess jujitsu and facing and becoming vulnerable, but I can't think of more opposite. I mean, whether it's warrior to horse jockey,
right?
But Ramadi Fallujah to holding baby Lily.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, Ramadi and Fallujah will never leave you. That's something that, when you experience that the way we did, that's never going to leave you. That'll always be with you. Now, you have to control it, because you do. I don't think anyone that goes over there and loses their friends over there will ever forget those experiences, but you have to control your mind. You have to exercise that mind. So it's not something that happens overnight. I can't say like, hey, yeah, as soon as I saw Lily, it was like I changed and I became like this superhero father. Like, unfortunately, it doesn't happen like the movies. You still have to face your demons, but you have to prepare yourself in whatever way you need to make sure that when you do face those demons, you come out on top.
How did you know what to do? Did you read a book? Did somebody tell you?
It was mostly because I started seeing my friends take their lives after the war, after we got back. And I realized that's not the route that I wanted to take. You start, after surviving all that, and I could only imagine what they're going through in their head. And for them to say that this is enough, like I don't want to suffer anymore, and to call it quits like that I wasn't ready to cash out. So.
Do you think that's because you have Lily?
I think Lily played a role, for sure.
You think you would have survived without her?
I'm not sure. I know that she did play a role in me wanting to stick around. But I know having a support system, like the friends that I had, going through everything that we went through, even after, like not only during it, but staying in communication with your buddies even after it, and You know, we do reunions every year. I would go visit them once a year. They would come down and visit me. Having that as a support system was probably the most beneficial, along with jiu-jitsu. Only because when they weren't around, the people that I looked to for support were those guys that I was in the gym trying to choke out, you know? So, yeah. Like, once somebody gets you to the point where you're going to black out and then they bring you back, it's like, hey, man, we're just having fun here. Yeah, they tend to become close friends. You know, like, you typically are closer with the friends you fight with.
Did your dad know the kind of warrior you were?
I think so. I think he knew more so through his friends, because I don't think my dad really knew much about our military. But I know that he would always tell me, he's like, hey, man, why does everybody want a picture of you? It's like, because he had a picture of me in the house, and everybody's like, hey, can I get a picture of your son? He's like, why does everybody want this picture? It's like,
He didn't understand.
No, he didn't understand. So, but his thing was, I'm not going to share your picture because you're not dead. You're still alive, so.
Was that a good thing?
Yeah, I guess. Maybe. He put that out in the universe or something. Yeah.
I'm sorry about what happened.
It's okay. It happens.
Not really, but
I know.
it doesn't change it.
I know.
I'm really glad you're here.
Me too.
And the idea that you went through all this and you decided that you're going to help people.
Right. Which is another thing that helps.
And that
It's another thing that helps. Helping other veterans and seeing, you know, that they could possibly be, you know, somewhere where you were a while ago, and helping them guide through that is what's rewarding. It's what keeps me moving. You know.
What else gives you strength?
In the strength, in the sense of
Getting up every day and day one over and over again.
would say helping veterans. I mean, I love what I do. I mean, obviously, right? I went to school for 8 years to become a chiropractor, and now.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah. So it's like it calls to me, just like the Marine Corps did.
I suspect you're going to take this all over.
What do you mean?
That you're going to take OST to a lot of other places where it's needed.
Of course. We have to.
I think that people deserve it.
No, of course, yeah.
I really do. People think that people deserve that.
I think so.
And that to know how to do what we do, and to know it's not rocket science, and it doesn't cost extra. If you can do this with compassion.
Absolutely.
But I couldn't do what you do. I don't know how I would go through what you've gone through and still find my way every day. I'm glad you can.
Of course. I'll do it to the best of my abilities.
I see that. That's what we do.
That's right.
That's what we do. So is there anything else you want to add about being a post 9/11 veteran?
It just feels good to help other veterans. It feels good to give back to those, you know, your brothers, your sisters, however you want to call it, to those that serve their country, regardless of, you know, what they're going through, what they've been through, or, you know, it's great back just to give back to another veteran.
Thank you, Juan Flores.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.